Funny how the story goes, little hope, a bigger dream.
G'day friends, welcome to today's video. It's just going to be a very simple, very quick, very easy, stress-free way to do some scales. I'm going to call these my MerMay scales because I feel like these are going to be a bit of a recurring motif throughout MerMay. I've done some pages of some samples here. I know, this is what I call class prep. But I just want to go through it and show you how to get the effect and the things that I kind of keep in my head when I'm doing it. Look, there's really no rules to anything that I do. I think we've established that by now, but there may be some things you want to think about, so that's what we'll go through. I'm going to mask off a bit of my journal as I do it, just because I have this feeling that it might look really nice and neat if I just mask it off. This is the MD 10th anniversary paper, MD paper, 10th anniversary notebooks. This is the white grid, so you can't see the grid at the moment, but when I put the paint down, it will more than likely show through. I can see a faint grid as I'm staring at it. Having said that, I didn't bother lining up my tape. All right, I'm just gonna tape this off because I wanna do it in watercolor. I know I could show you in pencil and maybe I'll do some like little demos in pencil if it gets a little confusion, but I just wanna do this. Because also I feel like this is maybe how I wanna start painting in my journals sometimes. I'm not going to say from now on because I'll change my mind. As soon as I get a rule, I try to break it. So, not a good idea for me to go down that path. All right, the first thing you'll notice is that they're all just loops. So I've been thinking of them as loops, and then once you've got the kind of basic principle down, you'll be able to apply it to any kind of, fill any space, fill any shape. They're great for making cacti, I've found out, and coral is fun. This is a little small for my liking, but maybe you might like that. Basically, you're going to draw either 1, 2, or 3 loops, and they're all going to be different. So perhaps I will go in pencil first just to explain it. I've got my Pilot OPT pencil here, my mechanical pencil, really love this. Okay, so what we're going to do is simply draw a loop. Now these, you could call them loops, scallops, rainbows, semicircles, half ovals, whatever you want to call them, but it's a loop, right? So we're just doing loops. I like to go across from left to right, but this is going to totally depend on how you enjoy drawing and how you like writing. And I'm just going to make different sizes. Now they can be like drastic size differences as well. You can have a really small one and a really big one. Now when I go around again, what I want to try and do is remember to, whatever I'm connecting, I want it to kind of connect in the middle somehow. So I don't really want to have a loop coming off this way and touching this loop over here. If anything, I want to take from the middle and connect it over here to this middle. But sometimes what I will do is actually just draw a few like freestanding loops on one of the other ones. So I wouldn't probably draw more than 3, but like I said, rules are made to be broken, right? So now in this instance, you can see I've got this negative space here, and this is where people might get a little bit confused and say, well, how are you supposed to join it? You always kind of want to join from the middle of something. So I can either start here because I'm already at the middle, and I can join to this middle over here, or what I could do is even start here and join to this middle over here, but you kind of want to be drawing from middle to middle. So if you split these loops down the center, you'd always have this point that would kind of be a connector point for you. Now, here's the thing, it doesn't really matter and you can totally get away with not doing it, but that's what kind of makes sense in my head. So if I wanted to draw this loop to this loop, I think it would look kind of funny. So what I'm going to do is actually just draw another little loop on top of that. And then I'm going to draw another little loop over here. So you've got these two kind of meeting. This is one of those examples where it's not coming from the middle, right? But it doesn't also make a difference. So what I just wanted to show you is like, basically it's not a rule, but it would look more even if you could join them from center to center. But because I end up putting these like little random ones over here, like sometimes I'll start off the page and I'll put some over here, maybe I'll put one over here like that. This kind of a loop is just a little flat for my liking. So I might just want to put one just like that. And it doesn't necessarily meet the middle, but you're still connecting it to there. So I guess maybe it was a bit redundant for me to say it in the first place. You basically just want to create loops of varying shapes and sizes, make some really thin, make some really thick, have them go off the page as well. They really don't have to match up. If you feel like you wanted to put one down here and it's too late, it's never too late, put it in, and then just keep going until you've completely filled your space. or your shape, whatever you're trying to do it with. If you're just practicing, then just fill a square. So here's something that I would try to avoid. See this tiny little gap here? Sometimes it's not easily avoidable, but I would try to avoid something like that and make sure that it connected over here. It's just easier on the eye. Having said that, it's just as simple for me to loop that together over there and we'll be fine. Now mine are all kind of skewed this way. I don't know if that's because my eyes are in crooked today, but let's just go with it. All right, now this is one of the most interesting features of this little scallop pattern that I kind of get really taken with. I then like to go back in and choose some of these loops and then add extra loops into them, but not any different sizes. I like to follow the curve that's already there. So I'll either add 1 or 2 lines inside. So here's an example of when I add 1 line inside. I'm literally just going to draw a line parallel to this loop here. And then if I wanted to add 2 lines inside, I'll add 2. And they have to be parallel. I think that's what kind of makes it a little bit more interesting. It might just start to get a little hectic on your eyes if they're not running parallel to each other. So that's what I kind of advise. So in the end, you'll end up with these 3 loops just kind of consecutively getting larger, but that was the 1 loop that you drew from the beginning, right? So I think it's kind of simple at this point. I'll just show you the rest. I'm just gonna add in 1 or 2 wherever I add them in. I like to skip a few. This also depends on how you're gonna color it too. I like to color these tone on tone, which means I'll just use 1 shade and get gradually darker. I think that looks fun too, but you can do multicolored. I wouldn't suggest more than 3 colors because, like the lines, it might start to get a little hectic on your eyes. But yeah, I mean, you can go as ham as you want. Why not? This is what your art journal's for, right? Okay, I got some water and I got a little paintbrush over here. I'm gonna give you a bit of a neon moment. Sometimes when I'm painting, I don't really want to be too pedantic about it. Sometimes I might just do an all over wash if I just want a color on there and I know the other 2 colors I'm adding will just layer over the top. I'm not going to be so I'm not going to bother with each single one if I'm just, basically what I'm trying to say in English. If I've got 3 colors and I know I'm going to do a mix of the 3 colors, if I've got a lightest one that the other 2 are going to cover up, like it's not going to be a problem, I won't color everything in individually. I'll just do a wash of that lightest color and then I'll add the other 2 on top because it's essentially going to block out the parts anyway. Look, you may think it's a waste of paint, but I think it's a time-saving technique. So I guess it's just one of those things. It depends on which perspective you're looking at it from, but this helps me. Don't you love how I went on about coloring tone on tone and I'm not doing it in my demo? So what I'm going to do now is go back in and color in the rest of the loops. The thing with having 3 colors in this is that I think it's exciting to look at. It can be a little busy depending on how much of a space you're trying to fill, but there's always going to be like spots where you can miss and spots where you can double up, and it's not going to become this like huge mess of colors where you're trying to take stock of what color you've got where and how much of this color is down. I find that you can be super intuitive about it and it really doesn't affect how it looks in the end. So I just want to encourage you to mix it up with some colors. I hope I'm doing a good job explaining this. Honestly, like I've been listening to myself and it doesn't sound like I'm explaining it well. But I think you can get the idea from what you're seeing on the screen, hopefully, fingers crossed. You're just kind of trying to fill in these spaces, but you want to miss some, so you don't really want an orange next to an orange. So here I can see that this line right in the middle here isn't going to touch another orange. I can see that this isn't going to touch another orange, so I'm going to color that in. I know I've got one over here that's not going to touch another orange, and that's what I mean about 3 colors. With 2 colors, you're kind of going to end up touching each other if you're filling the space, but with 3, I find that it's really, it's a manageable amount of colors. It also doesn't make your eyes go crazy. I'm not quite sure if this pink's going to be too similar to the orange. I don't, maybe not. But I'm just going to go in with pink and fill in the other spaces that I want to color. Now, if you want to do this with a mermaid scale, then all I'd say is you tip the page upside down, or you just draw it the other way. So instead of doing your loops like that, do your loops underways, like you're drawing U shapes as mermaid scales. There you go, a lovely little pattern there. Like I said, if you want to do mermaid scales, I would just tip it upside down and do it that way. Now, I want to show you a little sample making a shape. And I'm going to do this sample with alcohol markers just to give you a bit of a different look, because this is a little off-putting for people that don't like texture. And I don't want you to not enjoy the demo. Alright, so on this page you can see I have done a... what's it called? A cactus? Now, I'm not going to do anything crazy shaped today. I'm actually just going to do a circle. Or you know what? I'll do a circle with like a little circle off to the side, just to show you how I approach coming around corners like this. So essentially we're doing exactly the same thing. We're going to do our loops. I'm going to do some big ones here because I don't have a ton of time at this point. I'm going to do my loops, just getting it going. So here's the part where you could go one of two ways. You could just keep going up like this, or you could start to curve it around. Now, I'm not quite sure, what did I do here? I kind of rounded it off. I don't like the shape to be perfectly mapped out, so I'm just going to seem like these scales are independent of each other, like these little shapes are not in the shape, but they're actually forming the shape. And when you get to a place like this, I'm just gonna add the little loops on, like that. I'm not gonna be so particular about having the center lines hit the other center lines. When you're on the outside edge like this, you can bring them around, you can make the loops. With the shapes, you're probably gonna want to ditch some of the rules that we talked about in the first sample and just be a bit more, just feel it out a little bit. If you feel like something looks right, it probably looks right. If you feel like it needs to change, then grab your eraser and just change it a little bit. But you know what? It's just a pattern. We're just looking at pattern here, and I think this one's an interesting one. Mostly not for the loop, because I know the loop's been around, but for the loops inside the loops. The extra little spaces that we give ourselves to either color or put patterns in there. I think that's what makes it a little bit more interesting and a little more exciting for your eyes. It looks like you've done the most, the absolute most, when really, it's just super simple. So I'm gonna go in and put my little 1 or 2 lines inside these loops. If you're confused about these types, you can even have them come around like teardrop shapes. Like, it really doesn't matter too much. You just still want the same idea that whatever lines you're putting in there run parallel to the actual shape, to the loop. Right, I think that's good for me. I'm going to pick out some alcohol markers. I'm going to put a little board underneath it so I don't bleed through all the pages. And let's just get coloring. Please forgive the horrendous job I did coloring. I think because this paper's so smooth, the graphite from my pencil stayed relatively on the surface, whereas in textured paper it would have more sunk into those grooves, the valleys, and the Copic marker just picked it back up and kind of made this nice graphite blend. So it is a little bit shocking, and I drew it kind of small for me to be able to be bothered coloring it in without going outside the lines. I got all the excuses today, but it doesn't matter because that's not what we're here for. We're here just to learn how to do the pattern, and I'm hoping that this was informative enough to this point, because I haven't really got much else to say other than if you want to go in and start adding in like extra details, you can go in with your pens and your pencils and your whatever you have, and I would just start adding patterns in as well. Like, this is if you really want to go there. Like, if you want this to be your feature, this kind of looks like that BB-8 thing from Star Wars. I don't know Star Wars, I don't watch Star Wars, but that's what it looks like to me. I've seen the shape of that thing. This is my version of a bird. So I don't draw animals, never claim to draw animals. It's probably something I should get into because this is atrocious for a bird. But I didn't set out to draw a bird, so I'm not going to slaughter myself for it. It's just, this just looks a little nuts to me. I guess I just wanted to show you that you can use these patterns to make textures on your illustrations, or you can make them a part of, you know, your whatever your drawing's anatomy is. You can use them as elements, you know, in the illustration. Not everything that's a pattern has to be in the background. Sometimes I think it's really nice to feature interesting patterns, and this just happens to be the one that I'm kind of obsessed with at the moment. I think it's also really fun tone on tone. So this is purple, this is that Dilutions ink. This is some distress ink I had in Faded Jeans and Broken China. And I actually just painted this mermaid out and then just went straight in with the tail, the little loops on the tail. This is my catfish. Just an element down here to look at. It's not finished, but I don't know if I'll ever finish that. Oh, and this is one I just went straight in with the ink. So it is different to actually like draw it out and then fill in the colors. There you can get some really fun effects if you just grab a liner brush or something and just make the loops. I'll just show you one of these like tone on tones just over on the side here. I love how I masked off that one. It looks all nice, and now I'm just going straight in. See, that's why I couldn't make a rule for myself. So we've got the pink down there like that, and I think it's just nice to go straight in. And that way you can like literally fill it in as you go. And that just gives you a softer effect if you just do the tone on tone. Then you're not having all these, you know, harsh lines in there. But if that's something that you like, if that's, if you want to be graphic with that, or if that's going to help you with your, you know, patterning that you want to put in afterwards, like if you want to go full on with it and start putting patterns on patterns on patterns, like how I dress, then maybe you want to keep the graphic outlines. In any case, it's just really fun to do. It's actually kind of therapeutic. So if you're someone that really enjoys Zentangling, those coloring books, just mindless mark making, then this might be something you might want to try your hand at. You could even be really ultra and do the same pattern inside one of these loops. It's so meta, like the photo of a photo of a photo of a photo. When you look in a mirror, in another mirror, you know that thing? Is there a name for that? Is it actually called something? I feel like it'd have to have a name. Now that I'm looking at it, I mean, could this not be a house in the mountains? Like some weird fairy house or something? I don't know. I'm gonna put a door and windows on, and this one's gonna be a house. All right, that's a house now. You could swatch out your colors as well. If you have 3 colors you want to swatch, or just go nuts and swatch out everything you've got. I thought might look fun too. Some swatch loops, I guess. I don't know. It's going to be up to you. But I just wanted to demonstrate this for you today, so you had one more weapon in your arsenal of patterns. Okay, that's it for me today. I will see you again tomorrow for another MerMay installment. Hope you're enjoying that. I hope I'm still enjoying that. I'm not quite sure when I'm going to put this video up. Alrighty, bye.